Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host, where today we are talking UFC 313, headlined by Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. We're going to be breaking down 4 plays here on the show today, and we definitely have a... Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host, where today we are talking UFC 313, headlined by Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. We're going to be breaking down 4 plays here on the show today, and this weekend coming up is probably going to be the most plays I have had released for clients on one card. I really like this card from a betting perspective. Already have 3 plays locked in, and normally I'm around the 4 plays per card range. Again, I'm very selective. That's how we have found long-term success, not overexposing ourselves on cards. And I do like this card a lot, and already do have a 5% max bet up right now for clients. 78% win rate on that over the last 12 months. Have one locked in already, and really excited about it, feeling great about this card. And again, probably going to have around 6 plays for this event once we get to find out on Saturday. So if you want to become a client, link down in the description. And with that being said, let's dive into the main event of the evening between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Now, this one here, very interesting fight here, and especially where this line is. We've got Alex Pereira minus 120, and the comeback here on Ankalaev is minus 106. It's been pretty much sitting around this price for quite some time now. You've got the current champion and the absolute killer right now in Alex Pereira. On the other side, you got Magomed Ankalaev, high-level striker who does have some wrestling. Now, that's the first thing I think we're going to cover in this particular fight here is the wrestling. Now, that is the absolute story here. Can Ankalaev take Pereira down? Can he keep him down? Can he submit him? Can he bank rounds? Can he maul him on the ground? That's pretty much where, if you like Ankalaev, that's what you're thinking is going to be happening in this fight here. Now, the thing for me here is that, yes, he's a Dagestani, but really wrestling is not Ankalaev's game. It's just not really what he does, and pretty much throughout his career, it's just not what he's done. Over his 14 UFC fights, he's only secured 10 takedowns over that span. He's averaging less than 1 successful takedown per 15 minutes. Not very high overall. Again, showing you he is not really a wrestler, and he has a 31% takedown success rate. Over his last 5 fights, he only secured 3 takedowns, and those 3 takedowns took place in 2 of the fights. 3 of the other fights, he didn't even land a takedown. So again, the narrative to Ankalaev's going to just take him down. It's very tough to kind of see that coming at all. Where I also do think that Pereira is continuing to elevate his grappling, or his defensive grappling and his wrestling, and just really elevating that, because if anyone's going to be looking to take him down, he has to have that locked in to keep this fight standing. Plus, to kind of drive that point home too on Ankalaev is the fact that out of his 20 victories, he has 0 submission wins. So again, he's not taking people down, pretty much not doing it throughout his career, has no submission victories. I just don't see that narrative really planning out. Can he go out there and get a couple takedowns? Sure, that's possible, but I don't think it's something where he's going to Khabib him and take him down, submit him, or grind out 5 rounds in top control. I just don't really see that. Now, for me, I kind of lean this is going to be playing out on the feet. I think this is going to be a striking matchup, and when you're looking at a striking matchup against Pereira, there are multiple advantages that he does have in this fight here. First thing is, the biggest issue for Ankalaev is the fact that he's very low volume, very low volume. He has had some boring ass fights and, ended up, edging it out, but has had some boring ass fights. It just doesn't really push that pace at all. He averages 3.64 significant strikes landed per minute. Pereira does average 5.45. So he definitely is going to outvolume here. And I think that is an interesting part of this, is because that he's normally, you got a guy who's going to outvolume. Maybe he's going to pitter patter some shots or whatever it is. You've got Pereira who's going to outvolume him, and then also have that power dynamic on top of that. And I think that's going to be very, very tough for Ankalaev in this spot here, where you've got Pereira, out of his 9 UFC victories, 7 were by knockout, where you've got Ankalaev since 2022. The only people he's knocked out was the glass chin of Johnny Walker and the UFC analyst in Anthony Smith. Not the not the highest level guys that he's been knocking out. And you also got it in the fact that Pereira will have a 4-inch reach advantage. Those are multiple advantages if this fight plays out on the feet. Now you also got to add in the fact of the leg kicks. And going back and watching tape, I think one of the most interesting fights to really watch, although it was one of the most boring ones to watch, was Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz. And that was a fight for the title. Both these guys, boring, didn't do too much. It was very low volume type of fight. Pretty much people were booing. And in that fight there, the takeaway for me was the fact that Jan was having massive success on the leg kicks. I mean, he was just chopping away. Multiple times you saw, Magomed stumble, wobble from it. He looked almost discouraged where he wasn't able to check any of those leg kicks. And I think that if Jan is able to land at a high clip, I think that Pereira lands at an even higher clip and really sticks to it. Plus, he's going to have the power dynamic up top. So I think that dynamic of the leg kicks and the heavy shots that he throws, I think is going to cause a lot of problems for Ankalaev in this spot here. And then we also got to sprinkle in the strength of schedule, and you're looking at the strength of schedule here, out of Pereira's last 8 fights, 7 of them were former champions. He has faced the elite of the elite, and he has knocked out most of them. And now you look at Ankalaev, where Ankalaev, he beat Thiago Santos, who's 1-7 in his career right now in a run. He's not in the UFC anymore and getting beat in other organizations. Anthony Smith, who's on a 2-5 run. Johnny Walker, 3-4 run. And even Alexander Rakic, this is a fight that got him here. It was, 50, I think it was 55 to 53 in significant strikes. Another very low volume type of fight there. And yes, he got, Ankalaev got the victory, but Rakic 2-4 out of his last 6. So to me in this spot here, I think that the market has completely undervalued Pereira. He continues to beat some of the elite level fighters, has not shown really a weakness when it comes to it. I think that they're overvaluing the wrestling. I think he can defend that. I think he landed bigger shots. For me in this spot here, I got to go Alex Pereira at this nice -120 number. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Armen Petrosyan at -155 against Bruno Ferreira +130. Now, this is going to be a high volume kickboxer in Petrosyan versus Bruno Ferreira, who is explosive and does have big power. Now, if you're just looking at technical striking here, there's no doubt that Petrosyan has the edge. He's going to be the cleaner striker overall. He's going to bring the volume out. He's going to want to play at range, really utilize some of that range. And really the volume is where he does find success, looking to really outpoint you over the 3 rounds. And he's not dangerous. That's the one thing. And I think a big issue with him here is he's not as dangerous. He's not a finisher. And Bruno Ferreira is not going to be scared moving forward against the big shots that are really with the big shots that he has compared to really the artillery coming towards him for Petrosyan. Now, the major difference is the harder hitter here in Bruno Ferreira. I mean, he has got the big time hammers. He can throw the big bombs. He's going to push forward. He's going to look to really land the big shots here. And the way that I kind of look at this fight and going back and watching tape is, yes, that I think that Petrosyan has the ability to maybe out-volume him. But the thing about it is a lot of times Petrosyan wants a pretty fight. He wants a very clean fight. He wants to, throw at range, out-volume you, work back on the outside, land some shots, out-volume you. And I think somebody like Ferreira who can move forward, who's going to throw the big shots, who's going to crash the pocket, who's going to force a brawl. And you do see Petrosyan, if it's starting to happen in a brawl, he'll stand there and throw. We even saw against Shara Bullet where, although he was outlanding him, again, once he started doing some stupid stuff, he ended up getting hit with a ridiculous double back fist, which is kind of crazy. But I think that he can be drawn into this. I think that Bruno can start landing the big shots, draw Petrosyan into a more scrappier type of fight. And I do think that the pressure is going to really get to Petrosyan. Petrosyan wants the space to work. I don't think he's going to get it. And I think that's where you're going to see Bruno Ferreira land the more damaging shots. Now, another path for him here could be the wrestling, and it's not that Bruno is this wrestler by any means, but the vulnerability I think is there for him. And you look at Bruno's landed 1 takedown over his 6 UFC fights. Now, 4 of the 5, ended in round 1. So so he hasn't really had an opportunity to really utilize it. But I think in this spot here, we have seen Petrosyan where he has been taken down multiple times over his last 7 UFC fights. He's been taken down 15 times. And I think that is going to really spell problems here, I think, for Petrosyan. And I do think, he's got a 31% takedown defense rate. I think the path is going to be there, and there's absolutely a vulnerability in that wrestling. And I do think that you're going to see Bruno be able to mix it up. And I think mixing it up is going to really work well for him. If he's looking to push forward and he's looking to go for those takedowns, they're there. Or if he's looking to push forward and throw the big shots, I think those will be there. And I do think there's a little bit of recency bias on Bruno's last fight where, against Abus Magomedov, I'm not high on him, but it was a tough stylistic matchup. And, Abus, 6-inch reach advantage and has good wrestling. And that saved him in their last fight where Bruno, yes, Abus was having some success, but, Bruno, rocked him, dropped him. And it really was the wrestling that really, got Abus out of it, really got him just out of that tough situation. If it wasn't for the wrestling, I think that you could see Bruno getting that finish there. And I don't think that that's something that Petrosyan has. If he gets rocked, he is not going to be shooting for takedowns. He is a pure kickboxer, and I think he can land the bigger shots. And even here, Bruno's going to have the 1-inch reach advantage compared to a 6-inch disadvantage here. So in this spot here, I think the power dynamic is going to be massive for Bruno. The upside of a finish is for Bruno. I think that he can utilize some takedowns. So I think mixing it all together here and the durability of Petrosyan, I am not high on him at all, especially when we're talking a -1 to 55. I'm taking Bruno Ferreira here at +130. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be John Castaneda, -115 against Chris Gutierrez, -105. Now, both of these fighters did have a change of opponent. You did have Castaneda, who was supposed to fight last week against Douglas Silva de Andrade, and then you have Gutierrez, who was actually supposed to fight on this card, but it was against Gene Masamoto, and which we did cash on that Rob Font plus money play, but Gene did not get that victory. So here we are in this fight here on Saturday night. Now, Castaneda did have to weigh in last week, which at first was a little bit of a concern, having to make weight and then also the next day or the next week have to make weight. But this fight now, it's not at 135, it's going to be 145. And I think that at least will help him in this spot here. Now, Gutierrez is a good striker. He definitely has ability when you're talking about at range, but, overall, he's kind of a one-dimensional, only has one weapon. Going back, it's pretty much the leg kicks. He's going to spam the hell out of those. He is just going to continually do it. He's going to start, hot with those, really chop away. And that's really how he starts to slow down opponents. They start worrying about the leg kicks. He can start to mix it up a little bit. And, he's going to be elusive. He's going to be, at range. He's going to want to, chop away, have some footwork, skirt on the outside, chop away again. And that's really his main weapon at distance. And you got Castaneda here, who I think is definitely going to be, when it comes to just mixing it up, a lot better and have more paths to victory in this spot here. I think pressuring forward is going to help him a lot in this spot here. I think also it's going to smother the kicker a little bit here, keep Gutierrez on that back foot, allowing Castaneda to go out there and land the big shots. Plus, I do think that the volume is going to be in favor of Castaneda, where you've seen many times, Gutierrez can be very low volume, almost waiting for an opportunity, an opening to counter. I think that's not going to work out well for him here, where Castaneda is going to push forward, throw out big volume here. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. And I like the fact that I like his stance switching. I think the stance switching is very good. He disguises his shots very well. And I think that if you're going to have somebody who's going to be sitting there looking to just chop at legs, I think that Castaneda can find some success. And then one of the bigger red flags here on the Gutierrez side is his takedown defense. Definitely he has been taken down. He not only can be taken down, he can be controlled once on his back. He almost has no get up game. I mean, I'm very unimpressed with his get up game here. And it's not that I think that Castaneda is going to be shooting for takedowns, endlessly, but he is a Division II college wrestler. He does have some background there. And I think if he can mix that up with his forward pressure and keep Gutierrez on the back foot, I think that his striking mixing with some of these takedowns is going to help him dramatically here. So with the wrestling, with some striking advantages, with the 4-inch reach advantage, I do like Castaneda in this spot here. So I'm going John Castaneda minus 115. And the last one here we're going to go over is going to be Myron Santos minus 133 against Francis Marshall plus 250. Now, in this one here, both these guys are, rising prospects. 24 years old, you have Santos, 25 in Marshall. I think these guys have a future in the UFC. To what degree, I'm not too sure, but I think that they both have the raw skills to kind of keep going, within the organization here. I don't see them kind of leaving. I think they're definitely good prospects to kind of build on in the division. Now, I do believe also there is some recency bias kind of going on in here when you're looking at this fight here. You've got Santos coming off a knockout victory over Con Offley. And then you've got Marshall, who recently had a very tough scrap with Dennis Bazooka. And, I think the takeaways on those, and I think the first thing to take away on the Marshall fight is the fact that, it was a scrappy fight. There was certain moments where he looked like he was maybe going to get finished, or he was, it was just a scrappy type of fight. And Dennis is not the highest level guy. So I think a lot of that's kind of overseen. But if you really look at it, that was a short notice fight, up a weight class for Francis Marshall, and he pulled out the win. So to me, I kind of give him a lot of credit, in that fight where he was able to at least get the victory. He was able to get the job done at least. And that's where I think here, people are kind of downgrading that performance, where I actually don't think it was that bad of a performance. And then you look at Santos' side where, yes, he got the knockout, but, it was against Con Offley. And the big, kind of knock here is that, Con Offley's a wrestler. Santos, has shown to be a little bit vulnerable against wrestlers, and he ended up knocking him out. But Con Offley didn't even shoot one takedown in the fight, which didn't really make sense for a guy that, sees that vulnerability. Now, it could be credit to Santos, whatever it may be, but I thought that he looked terrible out there in Offley, but he gets the knockout victory. Now, the better striking, no doubt, is going to be Santos. I think he can work at range better, crisper striking. I think he's got the faster hands. There are a lot of advantages that he does have. Now, one of the biggest holes in his game, I think this is kind of the theme here, is the takedown defense. And, his only loss is to a wrestler. So I think that's why people are overvaluing the recent knockout win, which was a nice knockout. No doubt about it. It was a nice knockout from Santos. But, his only loss was to Dan Argueta, which was outside the UFC. And Dan Argueta absolutely mauled him, took him down multiple times, mauled him, and got that second round finish. And, now he fights, or most recently fought Offley. And I just feel like people really thinking that Offley, I think he's awful, is more like it. But I don't really see much in him. And again, I think that was a little bit overstated. But I think in this spot here, Marshall is a guy that's going to have far better wrestling. He's going to be able to go out there and wrestle. He's going to look to push the pace. He's going to come forward. He's going to really look to crash the pocket. And I don't think he's going to give the space that Santos needs. And I do like also the fact that, the strength and physicality advantage here for Marshall, I think that's going to help him here. I think he's going to be able to dive at legs, get these takedowns, and really get that control time. It may not even be the best looking type of victory for Marshall, but I think he can consistently get these takedowns. And once he starts to, really smother and slow down Santos, I think that's where he's going to find a ton of success here. Also, we have seen that Marshall does have the gas tank. He can push that pace. He has the cardio to keep going forward, keep moving. And I think that's where he's going to find a lot of success here. And then lastly, I do like that Francis Marshall is now training at ATT. He's in the room with a bunch of killers. I think he could only get better, especially for a kid who's 25 years old in a room like that. He's only going to get better. Plus, I think he's going to come up with a very good strategy and that team here. So in this spot here, this is an absolute dog or pass spot. I think that Santos should be the favorite, but not at this price tag. So here, love that plus money. We're going Francis Marshall plus 225. So there you have it for UFC 313. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. Again, I've got a couple plays up right now. Probably going to have the most plays that I have had in quite some time. So keep an eye out if you're a client. I'll be sending out those plays probably soon. And with that being said, let's make some money this weekend and let's cash.